Most men are afraid of losing their friends. The ultra-wealthy are afraid of having them. That difference alone should disturb you, because it means everything you were taught about connection reverses at the highest level. You think wealth expands your circle. It doesn't. It compresses it. Until what remains is not friendship as you understand it, but something colder, sharper, and far more deliberate. You call it loneliness. They call it filtration. Here is what no one tells you. The moment you become valuable, relationships stop being innocent. Every interaction begins to carry weight, not emotional weight, strategic weight. People don't just see you anymore. They assess you, what you know, what you have, what you might become, and most importantly, how close they can get to it. This is where the shift begins. At lower levels, friendship is built on shared experience. At higher levels, it is evaluated through shared incentives, and incentives are unstable. Because they change, the moment circumstances change. Machiavelli understood something most people refuse to accept. People do not betray you because they are evil. They betray you because their interests moved. That is the foundation. Not trust, not loyalty, interest. The ultra-wealthy build their lives around this principle, which is why they do something that feels unnatural to the average mind. They limit emotional exposure. Severely. Not because they lack feeling, because they understand consequence. You think a large circle is support. They see a large circle as surface area, and surface area creates vulnerability. The more people around you, the more variables you cannot control. More opinions, more expectations, more potential leaks. And at a certain level, information is not casual. It is currency. A careless conversation can cost millions. A misplaced trust can collapse years of positioning. So they adapt, not loudly, quietly. They stop explaining themselves. They stop sharing prematurely. They stop maintaining relationships that require constant emotional maintenance. And slowly, almost invisibly, their world becomes smaller, but sharper. This is the part that looks like isolation from the outside. But from the inside, it feels like clarity, because something interesting happens when you remove constant social input. Your thinking changes. It becomes less reactive, less diluted, more exact. Most people have never experienced this, because they are always in conversation, always in reaction, always adjusting themselves to be understood. The ultra-wealthy do the opposite. They adjust the environment to protect their thinking. That requires distance, and distance has a cost. You will be misunderstood. You will be labeled, cold, detached, different. But those labels are not observations. They are reactions to lost access. When people can no longer read you, they create stories about you. And those stories are rarely accurate. But accuracy is irrelevant. Control is what matters. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. Familiarity creates predictability. Predictability creates weakness. If people can anticipate your behavior, they can position around it. They can influence it, exploit it, neutralize it. So the solution is simple, not easy, but simple. Become less predictable. And the fastest way to do that is to reduce unnecessary closeness. Because closeness reveals patterns. Patterns reveal habits. Habits reveal vulnerabilities. This is why the ultra-wealthy do not have no friends in the literal sense. They have very few people with unrestricted access. That distinction matters. Access is the real currency, not proximity, not conversation. Access. Who can reach you easily? Who can influence your time? Who can shape your decisions? If the answer is many people, then you are not in control. You are distributed, and distributed attention destroys precision. Precision is what builds power, not effort, not intention, precision. The ability to act without interference, to decide without noise, to move without negotiation. That level of control requires something most people avoid: silence. Not external silence, internal silence. The absence of competing voices. The ultra-wealthy protect this aggressively, because once your mind is crowded, your decisions are compromised. and compromised decisions compound into weak outcomes. This is the hidden cost of constant connection. You begin to think in fragments. You start filtering your ideas through imagined reactions. You soften your moves before you even make them, and slowly you lose your edge. They refuse that trade completely, which is why their relationships feel different, less frequent, less expressive, more measured. Every interaction is intentional. Every conversation has boundaries. Every person is placed, not just liked. This sounds calculated, because it is. But not in the way people assume. It is not about manipulation. It is about preservation, preserving focus, preserving leverage, preserving optionality. Optionality is everything at that level. The ability to move without being constrained by people's expectations. The ability to act without needing approval. The ability to walk away without emotional debt. Most people cannot do this, because their relationships are built on obligation, unspoken contracts. If I show up for you, you must show up for me. If we've known each other long enough, access is permanent. The ultra-wealthy reject this completely. Time does not guarantee access. History does not guarantee relevance. Only alignment does. And alignment is constantly tested, not discussed. Observed quietly. How do you react to pressure? How do you handle success? Do you expand or do you resent? Do you support or do you compete? These questions are never asked directly. They are answered through behavior, and based on those answers, access is either maintained or reduced. No announcements, no explanations, just distance. Clean, efficient, final. This is where most people fail to understand them. They think it's arrogance. It's not. It's discipline, emotional discipline, strategic discipline. The ability to cut without hesitation when something no longer aligns, because hesitation is expensive. And at scale, small inefficiencies become massive losses, so they eliminate them early. Even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because comfort is not the objective, control is, and control requires sacrifice. Sometimes that sacrifice is social. Sometimes it's emotional, but it is always intentional. This is why their lives look empty from the outside. Fewer gatherings, fewer visible friendships, less noise. But what you don't see is what replaced it. Focus, clarity, direction, uninterrupted execution. They are not filling their time with people. They are investing it into outcomes, and outcomes compound. Relationships, when unmanaged, do not. They consume. They require maintenance. They introduce friction. At a certain level, friction is the enemy, even small amounts, so it gets removed systematically, until what remains is not a crowd, but a controlled circle. A circle where every person understands the rules. Access is earned. Access is maintained through alignment. Access can be revoked without negotiation. That is the unspoken agreement, and it is what allows everything else to function, because once that structure is in place, there is no confusion, no hidden expectations, no emotional chaos, only clarity, and clarity is power. So when you hear that the ultra-wealthy have no friends, understand what that really means. It means they have no uncontrolled relationships, no unnecessary exposure, no emotional liabilities disguised as loyalty. They are not alone, they are insulated. And insulation is what allows them to operate at a level most people never reach, because most people are still trying to be liked, still trying to be understood, still trying to maintain connections that quietly hold them in place. They are optimizing for comfort. The ultra-wealthy optimize for control, and those two paths do not lead to the same place. So now the question becomes uncomfortable. Look at your own circle, not emotionally, strategically. Who has access to you? Who influences your thinking? Who consumes your time without strengthening your direction? And more importantly, why are they still there? Because once you understand Machiavelli's law of solitude, you stop measuring relationships by how they feel and start measuring them by what they cost. And once you see the cost clearly, you can no longer pretend you don't understand why why the powerful choose distance. They're not missing out, they're cutting weight, and that difference is everything.